Well, this past Wednesday, the Supreme Court started hearing arguments in a case out of Maryland about the state's 6th congressional district. That district covers parts of Montgomery County, Frederick County, and western Maryland. Republicans argue that Democrats unfairly drew the 6th district to ensure a Democrat as being elected in that district. Now, a decision in this case and a similar case out of Wisconsin are expected in June. Back in January, Governor Hogan introduced a bill to reform redistricting here in the state. So I'll admit, redistricting, specifically gerrymandering, isn't the most exciting of topics. The definition of alone, well, it might trigger some bad memories from social studies way back in the day. But the word and its definition are both powerful and important. Gerrymander is a way to manipulate the boundaries of an electoral constituency so to favor one party or class. You still with me? All right, so simply put, either party, whichever is in control, can redraw a district to make sure that their party has the best chance of staying in power. All right, now this will get your attention. The word gerrymander, it does indeed involve a salamander. Back in 1812, Massachusetts Governor Gerry signed a bill that redistricted Massachusetts. Now, the map took on such a bizarre shape through Boston that one artist said it resembled a salamander. You see it there on the screen. Look familiar? Maryland's District 3, long been viewed as an oddity as well. This map was devised by then Governor O'Malley in favor of Democrats. And according to the Washington Post, a federal judge once described it as, quote, reminiscent of a broken-winged pterodactyl lying face down across the center of the state. It is a bizarre shape. And now the district gaining Supreme Court attention, that's District 6, which now draws in parts of rural western Maryland and heavily populated and Democratic Montgomery County, turning a once Republican-held district Democratic. You still there? And here with a little more insight on how this all began and why it all matters, Malia Cromer from Goucher College and the Goucher Poll, and Walter Olson. He's a senior fellow at the Cato Institute's Levy Center for Constitutional Studies. Thank you both for coming by. When you talk gerrymandering, the second question you usually get is this legal? Can they really do this? After asking, what is it? Is it legal or is it a little bit of both?
That's what the Supreme Court was trying to decide yesterday morning, and they are balanced on a knife edge because they are more or less 5-4, depending on how you count, about whether the Constitution should provide a remedy when there is a blatant partisan gerrymander like Maryland.
Sure, and Maryland knows this well, especially back in the O'Malley days when that District 3 was drawn and you see the map of District 3 and you wonder, how do these people have anything in common?
Well, it's not just District 3, right? It's also District 6.
Right.
And I think that really is the key problem. So you think about Western Maryland, and that's a really red part of the state. There's a lot of Republicans who live there, and they're currently represented by Democrat John Delaney. And the argument is it's that little sliver that touches down to Montgomery County. That's what tips the entire district in the Democrats' favor. And I guess the fundamental question is fairness. So is it fair for a geographic region that's mostly Republicans to be represented by a Democrat?
Sure, and both parties are really apt at using this. They figured out a way to harness this power, and the party that's in power turns it their way. Tell me about the history of it and why you think it sticks around.
Well, it is a very powerful weapon for incumbents, as you say. The people in power can redraw the lines so as to get more of their friends and fewer of their enemies elected the next time. And they don't want to give up that power. Sure. It's been a slow, long ride trying to get reform.
Give me an idea of why a voter right now needs to be paying attention to what happens in the Supreme Court leading up to June.
Well, if there is a decision that gerrymandering can be struck down as unconstitutional, the Maryland districts could be struck down, and every listener out there could be in a different district than they expected to be in. Beyond that, the cast of characters that we send to Washington is likely to change if our districting is ruled unconstitutional, and that will affect who represents Maryland and Washington.
Yeah, and the cast of characters here in Maryland really changed. You know, if you look back, there was a point when we had 4 Republican representatives going to Congress. Slowly dwindled. Now we're at 7-1. And it's really a head scratch. I mean, people couldn't have changed that much throughout the state.
No, and they really didn't. I think a key argument against gerrymandering is what happens is you get these really hyper-partisan districts. So individuals who can then run and win in these districts are more ideologically extreme, perhaps, than the median voter. And so the days of Connie Morella, a moderate Republican, are now over. And you're sending individuals that are either on the really far on the progressive left or really far on the right, like as the example of the 1st District with Andy Harris.
Sure. So do you get to the point where you sort of worry that the people who you're sending aren't exactly representing that area? Because that seems dangerous to me.
They are representing those who sent them there, which in many cases is not so much the voters as it is the line drawers in Annapolis.
Okay.
That's dangerous.
A lot of what you read over the last few weeks is that the Supreme Court has decided to sort of stay out of this for a while. They've sort of let the states sort of deal with it. Well, so what's the trepidation? Why are they tiptoeing into it?
They are worried that if they declare that it can be struck down, they'll get 100 new cases, and they'll have to say, what then? Lots of cases that are not as blatant as the Maryland one. Well, how blatant does it have to get? Not just congressional gerrymandering, but also think of the state legislatures, even the school districts and the counties. So they are worried about opening the floodgates to thousands of cases without a clear standard for how to resolve them.
Sure, and there's an idea that both Maryland and Virginia is floating out there right now, that they could get together. Virginia goes Republican, Maryland goes Democrat, get together, and then we bash all this together. And maybe this is the first domino that falls. Could this happen?
I don't know. So what you see is a lot of times when faced with this, there's not a lot of advocates that will come here and talk about why gerrymandering is good or why the way the Maryland district lines are drawn are a good thing, right? The question is, how do they deal with it? Should they deal with it in terms of a coalition, which is what the Democrats in the General Assembly have proposed, at least in previous legislative sessions, or do they adopt what Governor Hogan has been pushing for, which is that the independent redistricting. So having a commission actually draw those district lines to try to take some of the politics out of it. I believe that's been killed in committee. They will not be considering that this legislative session. But I will tell you that we've asked about this in the Goucher poll, and this idea of the independent commission is really popular, and that's what mirrors what we see nationwide. Americans as well as Marylanders would like to see some of the politics taken out of this redistricting and would like to see it put in the hands of an independent, nonpartisan commission.
So the big question is, could that work? Could an independent commission come in nationwide and sort of help guide states through this?
It's working in individual states, and that's why more than a dozen states have adopted pretty strong redistricting reform, and that's what Governor Hogan proposed in Maryland. That's what we're all waiting to happen, if not sooner, then at some point it's got to happen.
Okay, got about a minute left. If you had an ideal way to reform the way that we draw district lines right now, and you had that power, what would it look like?
I would send you to the report of the Maryland Redistricting Reform Commission from 2015, because there are many moving parts in a good plan. On the other hand, all of them are being used in other states, so it's not as if you have to invent something completely off the map. And you want those strong legal standards for compactness, for tracking county lines where you can, strong standards so that they know how to do it and so that judges know how to look over their shoulders.
Can I put my money on that? Will that happen sometime soon?
I wouldn't put your money on soon, but eventually, yes.
Something has to change, yeah?
Yes.
All right. Thank you both. Appreciate you both coming by. Also,